A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Survival of No Limits. Yep, I'm back at it again, so let's just say, for one, that this series certainly is taking quite a big turn. Because even though I still have some time left before I end up having to make a decision about moving somewhere else to do some more of this production, or I could do something different with the series as it is. But right now, I'd say that it's doing well for what it is, because right now, we're at a big number. 40. Yep. Episode 40. And the thing is, this one is yet another big occurrence throughout the world. Not only for the fact that we have this particular thing in mind, but also because some people are willing to risk their lives to accomplish this. And if that hint was not good enough, then well, episode 40 basically shows mountaintops are what's next. Mountaintops. Specifically speaking, Mount Everest, the Appalachians, the Swiss Alps, Pinatubo, the Africanized volcanoes around the area as well, not to mention the Rockies, Canada, Alaska, and thousands of other locations throughout the world. Mountaintops are certainly an absolutely thrilling experience out there. And I mostly say this because I've been someone who has gone on to a lot of mountaintops throughout my life, and I'm pretty sure y'all might have done the same thing. But the truth is that there really are a lot of things about mountaintops that are also scary and deadly. I say this because, simply put, we do have a lot to worry about. And you can never always tell what could happen. You can't always predict that kind of stuff either. So that's pretty much just one of the main reasons why I'm going to try and explain some of this stuff to you. Because let's just put out a case in point where I've been out to the Rockies. Colorado Springs, June 2017. I had just turned 18 at that time, and now I'm going to be 22. But the thing is, 4 years ago almost was a time when I simply got out to some more of the mountainsides. Because if Hawaii wasn't good enough, if Monchez wasn't good enough, if the Floridian area of, well, some mountainous terrain that situates some distance away from the Appalachian, then the thing is that Colorado Springs was pretty much our next stop. We did of ourselves Pikes Peak, which is of course a pretty big setup in the state of Colorado itself. It is a major point in the Rockies. So much so that, well, at one point we actually took a visit there at one point during our latest family reunion, but we are supposed to be having another one at some point later on. But the thing is, it probably won't really happen. I can't really say that for sure, but the truth is that I will have a lot to work with down the line. But going back to Pikes Peak, it certainly was quite a thrill for what it was, quite a drive on the way up there, but it is even more of an excitement on the way down, because the path to get up there by the road certainly is quite a risky territory in comparison to many other spots in the state of Colorado that forced you to go climb up and down the Rockies themselves. I say this because, well, if you're not very aware of how Pikes Peak's downward slope portion of the trip itself would usually go, then, well, I might as well explain it to you. I say that this sort of mountaintop in particular has been pretty dangerous because it actually sits near the cloud line, the line at which that the clouds usually hang about. And the thing is that at some altitudes, you can expect oxygen shortage. And this is mostly because the closer you are to getting outside of the atmosphere or the lithosphere, ionosphere, stratosphere, any of these layers of the Earth itself, you're probably more likely to encounter a lot of oxygen loss. And that's mostly because oxygen molecules end up expanding very far apart because of how less thick the atmosphere gets as you go up even higher in altitude. Most of the time whenever you're on a flight, you happen to be more than 30,000 feet above the ground itself, above sea level to be more precise. But in most occasions, whenever you're going to certain places like the mountaintops, usually they can stick below the cloud line or even directly in the path of the cloud line itself. And this, of course, is certainly something that is not very common. But in terms of Pikes Peak, it does settle around that particular layer, just a few miles up from sea level itself, as most of the terrain in Colorado and the Rockies in general happens to be about 10-15,000 feet above sea level in general. Especially when you get into the Rockies themselves, most of the terrain on average happens to nestle nearly 3 miles above sea level. And the thing is that you'd usually get several miles up on most of these mountains. Pikes Peak happens to beat many of them in many ways possible. One mountain, though, happens to surpass all of them. Nepal's own Mount Everest. A frightening height of more than 8,800 meters in height, which is just tremendously high. A mountain like that and its peak certainly do have the least amount of oxygen that anyone can pretty much climb up to. So the thing is, it is in fact a dead zone. But the thing is that Everest has been climbed up on for decades. And the thing is that many different explorers out there, conquistadors, journalists, photographers, and many other people out there who have been able to accomplish this sort of feat has certainly been quite a huge impression that has been left behind in history for many, many years. But for years to come, we are going to be expecting lots of new things to happen in terms of how we happen to coordinate the height of Mount Everest and ensure that we are able to get all the way up there without any problems. We're probably going to be having ourselves a lot to work with and probably a lot to study about just so we can find very good solutions that could be helpful in case anyone wants to go into Mount Everest. It's not for everybody, but with a little time, practice, money, and skill sets, we will be able to get up to the top of Mount Everest and make it a more public icon rather than something that's made for the dandiest of daredevils and the most brave of explorers. Of course, I would very much like to do my part to go up Everest, but it can't be done right now because I'm not even in Nepal per se. So that's pretty much going to cut it for right now, but I will say that I will have a lot of other things down the line here from this point going forward. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.